to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Welcome in. Thursday, April 17th. Mike, the Fantasy Hitman. Jason Moore. I'm Andy Holloway, the Fantasy Footballers. Back with you. Top 15 wide receiver episode, early rankings. We'll take a look at the wide receiver position. We just covered running backs on Tuesday. We'll talk news. We'll talk draft, which is, it's a week away.
Yeah.
It's a week away. So, for those wondering, right after the draft, we're going to be digging in. I mean, that's our go time, all the statistical projections, every offensive player, every team going into the UDK, forming our opinions based on, the nitty-gritty, all the numbers, digging in.
Getting the rookie rankings, the dynasty startup rankings, getting those up as soon as possible after the NFL draft concludes, because that would be in the dynasty pass, because we know as soon as the NFL draft is over, people want to do their rookie drafts. We know because that is us as well.
When we're doing it.
Yep.
If we're going to be honest with people, the real reason that we get right to heavy lifting work after the NFL draft is because it's for ourselves.
Yes.
It's to have.
Well, not me. I don't do rookie drafts, but everybody. I get it. I get it. Other people, they do those. I'm doing it, just purely for the people.
Well, I mean, you're still in the draft. Like, you're hanging out. You just don't have picks.
Well, I mean, I got some big news. I'm trying to get my team a little younger in Dynasty.
No, you're not.
That would be the first time in a decade.
Well, I mean, I just made a couple offers, and then I was informed, and I'm really excited about this. It's going to be great. I was informed that I could, if I made an appropriate offer, I could have a shot at Jonathan Brooks.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Somebody said
running back.
Somebody I know.
Former.
Somebody I know said
double ACL tear.
When push comes to shove, I might have a shot at him because I need to get younger, I was told by this individual who's sitting in the middle seat over there.
Yeah, that sounds exactly like a Papa Josh thing.
Yeah, and I know what Papa Josh is asking for double torn ACL Jonathan Brooks.
Everything.
The price is full price healthy Jonathan Brooks. That's the price.
I mean, you have a microphone, Josh. Do you want to weigh in? I feel like you want to defend yourself.
This all started because you sent us a trade offer, and I started looking at your team, and your team is older than me. And so we thought a young guy that maybe won't be playing this year.
They might play again.
Maybe has some value to a team that is ancient.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't think we're going to get anywhere on that one.
Yeah.
But I appreciate it. I mean, you did engage. You engaged. I was coming after Rome Odunze a little bit, but no dice. Thought maybe.
Yeah, he plays football.
Right.
So Josh isn't going to give that up.
The first offer I was sending Sutton for Rome. The second offer was Kyler and Sutton for McCarthy and Rome.
Okay.
So those were the two offers. Sutton getting ready to sign a contract.
Yeah, Sutton and Rome, that's an interesting one because
I think it's very interesting.
I bet on the surface if you say, hey, older Cortland Sutton for second-year Rome Odunze, top 10 wide receiver pick, you'd be like, well, obviously it's Rome, but I don't know that it's obviously Rome.
There are a lot of people
I think it's obviously Rome.
Yeah, so I disagree that it's obvious.
Well, that's one of those trades where Rome Odunze, wide range of opinions on his future. I am in the camp. I said it on the show, which probably hurt the trade offer, that the Waldron-less Rome Odunze will blossom like JSN. I think it will be.
Tear the Waldron down.
I think it will be.
Mr. Gorbachev.
Yeah, so, I mean.
Nice.
Anyways, we do have a lot coming with the draft, and we have the Ultimate Draft Kit, which is where you get the Dynasty Pass. There are two ways that you can get the UDK. You can go to ultimatedraftkit.com, and you can buy the UDK or UDK Plus, pre-order pricing, get it at a discount, help you during draft season. The other way is to become an Ultimate Foot Clan supporter. That gets you access to not just the UDK, but everything we offer, all of our premium content. We have two apps for those that are new to the show, we have an in-season app with a lot of features like a lineup optimizer, and we also have our UDK app. And so you get access to all the premium content if you're an Ultimate member, including every release of the UDK Dynasty Pass and all the premium in-season content. So those are both ways. You can go to jointhefoot.com or ultimatedraftkit.com to get access. We'll jump right into the quick question. It is related to the draft. Comes from YouTube. Brenton writes in the NFL draft, which team are you most excited to see pick and why? So no teams have multiple firsts as of right now. There isn't, necessarily, one team that's going to ammo up completely, but they have higher picks. And what are the names of some of the teams you're most interested in?
Yeah, I've got a 3-pack of teams. It's really just the running back destinations to me. I really want to know Chicago, Dallas, and Denver. Those spots seem like teams that are very interested in adding a running back. They seem valuable for that landing spot. You can throw the Raiders in there as well. I think right now that is like a kind of penciled-in Genty destination.
Yeah.
Like, at 6 they're going to take Genty, and then the rest of the running backs we're going to find out. But obviously, if they don't, I think a lot of people's predictions and draft boards and expectations, everything is going to shuffle around a lot. So I'll throw them. I'm just wanting to know where these running backs land. We have about a dozen really talented human beings at that position this year. There are not that many spots for a dozen to come in and be top 25 running backs. Like, that just can't happen no matter how talented they are. So where they land and which teams decide on which guys is going to completely change our rankings. Like, when we get to work after the NFL draft, our rookie rankings will look very, very different than they do today.
Mike?
I was going to say, Andy, which team?
Yeah, I mean, he just took my team.
Well, there
so
you go. Tell us more about the pick 6.
For me, it was the Raiders because it is Genty. I'm excited. There's a rebrand happening in Las Vegas. There is a coming back from under the rock of irrelevance. There is Brock Bowers, who everyone loves watching play. You got Geno Smith in the backfield. You have bubblegum Pete Carroll on the sidelines.
You got Tom Brady up in the top.
Yeah. There's a rebirth happening in Las Vegas, and I think if they pick Genty and you have these players that we're excited for fantasy and could actually perform on the field, there's just it's a renewal for that city. It's a renewal for that team. And I think that's exciting. I think it's fun. I want to care about them again. And the pieces are in place.
You're hoping they take Genty?
I am. Yeah, because I just think it's perfect. You're going to be putting your team in such a strong position to have elite talent at 2/3 of the offensive, and Geno Smith, I mean, very capable, signed to a contract extension. There's just competence there. And we've watched a lot of games over the last 2 years with rotating quarterback shuffle and an unhappy Devontae Adams. And, we got this amazing Brock Bowers performance last year. So it's time for the Raiders to return to relevance for both fantasy and the NFL.
I can't wait for the Giants to Genty.
Oh, my gosh.
Take their next Saquon.
Speaking of the Giants, that is the team that I'm most excited to watch because I think that's where the Shedeur Sanders watch really begins. I think Cam will go 1, and I think that the Browns will go probably Travis Hunter. And so now we're open. The Giants need a quarterback, and the saga of Sanders being locked in. He's easily the number 2 overall pick. Oh, he's could fall in the first round. It's like the opinions are so all over the place. So it will be very fascinating for me to see what happens there. Does that trigger a fall because the Giants don't take him, no one moves up? And, I mean, guy just got his jersey retired for all the great seasons in Colorado. Let's see if he gets to be a number 3 overall pick.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of possibilities in the draft that should be pretty interesting.
News and notes from around the league.
We have been peppered with ambiguous Mark Andrews-related sound bites.
This is full Shanahan.
So the Ravens general manager, Eric DeCosta, came out and said, quote, "I never know what's going to happen." When asked if he expects Mark Andrews to be with the team.
We don't even know if we're going to be alive on Sunday.
I mean, the implication, right, the implication is maybe they're shopping Mark Andrews.
Maybe.
And it wasn't, I mean, there was, in free agency period, we were worried about the return of Mark Andrews. So
yeah, I mean, they had a bonus date, right?
Yeah, they had a
they
date, and his contract kicked in a lot of money. So I think the expectation is for him to be on the roster, and this is just the GM saying, you know, the press release type of verbiage where I will tell you nothing. But I don't know, maybe he's trade bait.
Look, when a player's been this integral to your team, they probably expect to hear something better than this.
Sure. That's fair, yeah.
So at least it could be the beginning of the end. I said, is this the last year in Baltimore? I think this is definitely the last year in Baltimore. I think if he plays, this will be it. Cortland Sutton?
Let's say real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you were a GM, how could you not just at this point of the year troll the pants off of every media member? I would be leaking the stupidest crap, like things like this about, like Mark Andrews, is he going to be on the team? Oh, I don't know.
I have no idea.
I have no idea, and just like what? Why not? That would be the most fun of your job.
Cortland Sutton said extension talks with the Broncos are working in the right direction. And so there have been pretty positive talks about him signing a longer-term deal with Denver.
He's in a really good position because I feel like last year they saw that they're a team that needs to build for the future. He's an older veteran. Probably doesn't make sense to have a long-term extension. And then they hit on a rookie quarterback contract that says, okay, well, now let's just lock in the next 2 years while we can afford a wide receiver.
It's a 2-year window. Cortland Sutton, stable for your team, because what they haven't hit on is, you know, Franklin and Mims being like, they're not at Sutton's level. They're not a game changer, a first down guy, a red zone guy.
Yet. I mean, Franklin is clearly on his way. I got to play him when I can, man. There's not a lot of career left.
Oh, no.
Dolphins general manager Chris Greer also said the team is not currently considering trading Tyreek Hill. Yada, 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 yada. Want to talk wideouts?
What is this verbiage? Not currently considering.
That's the
That's what I would be doing.
Yeah. We're not currently considering trading Lamar Jackson.
Right.
We're not currently considering trading Jahmyr Gibbs.
I would maybe go a little lighter than that. Like, I don't think we're considering.
You know what, Papa Josh? I'm not currently considering trading you, Cortland Sutton, anymore.
Good.
I'm not currently considering firing him.
Josh?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Not currently.
I'm currently considering whether to fire Josh. So, I mean, you know, we'll figure this out.
All right, let's talk wideouts.
Wide receivers.
All right, we just did this with running backs, going through our consensus early rankings before we get into all of our deep team projections post-draft. We did put together a list, each of us probably the top 40 or so wideouts, and we grabbed our consensus top 15. We're going to share those with you today. We talked about what makes a top 15 running back on the Tuesday show. For a top 15 wide receiver, here's the averages. 97 receptions, 1,200 yards, 9 touchdowns, 144 targets, 14.5 fantasy points per game. So over the last 4 years, 82% of top 15 wideouts have averaged at least 7.5 targets a game. So they're generally, that's a high number. 67% of them had at least 8 receiving touchdowns. We'll be talking about Terry McLaurin today.
Yeah.
And so another number just related to wins and losses. The top 15 wide receivers were on NFL teams that average 9.7 wins. It's the same number as the top 15 running backs. You're always, I like how Jason put it. It's the same way I view it in the draft. If you are really close on a player, maybe they're both in the same tier. If you need a difference maker, pick the team you think is going to be better. going to win more games. It's just going to help you.
Mm-hmm.
So let's take a look here. At number 1, it's not a surprise, Jamar Chase, number 1 for all of us. Certainly lapped the field last year. Finally did it, right?
Yes,
We've been coming into drafts.
Yeah, it all came together.
Had been coming into drafts for years just saying what was true, that, Jamar Chase has as good a chance as anybody to finish as the wide receiver 1 overall. Now,
Crazy that it took 4 years.
Yeah, he was 20 fantasy points a game. Jefferson was 15.6. That's the largest gap between wide receiver 1 and 2 in 7 years. Another stat that I found, he was targeted 17 times on passes inside the 10. That's dreamy.
Yeah. No, it's sensational of the way that they utilize him. And going back, the Cincinnati Bengals running back discussion, like if they keep Chase Brown, like Brown is not the gigantic quadded up running back that, hey, when we get inside the 5, that's the plan. They know we're going to 3 downs. We're just going to run this ball. That's not who the Bengals are. The Bengals offense is all of the money is Jamar, Burrow, and T. Higgins, and they're going to keep throwing. Their defense is going to be porous. Guys, it's the situation is beautiful. It's so great.
Yeah, I mean, we talked. One of the reasons I liked Evans and we liked Godwin and we liked Baker was stability last year for Tampa's offense. You've just got stability in Cincinnati with even higher upside players at every position. So Burrow, Chase, T. Higgins getting the extension. There's no real concern here.
No, I mean
at this juncture.
No. What quarterback, like forget who the wide receiver is, what quarterback would you pick of the entire league right now to throw to your number 1 wide receiver for fantasy points? Like you don't want a mobile quarterback quite as much. They're not going to throw as much. You want someone who's a touchdown machine in passing touchdowns.
Yeah, other than maybe Josh Allen, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, even then, it's like Josh Allen's going to get a lot of those rushing touchdowns probably. It's like this might be the best quarterback to pick for your wide receiver in the entire league. And then you go, okay, well, take the quarterback away. Who's the best wide receiver that you'd pick out of all of them?
Oh, certainly.
Maybe Justin Jefferson, maybe Chase. It's probably between those two, but it's like they've got each other. It's not fair.
It feels a lot like Stafford and Calvin Johnson, and the fact you got the rapport, you've got the history. They played together in college. It's just perfect. Ceedee Lamb comes in at number 2 on our early wide receiver rankings. I have him at 3. I've got Jefferson ahead of him.
That's fine. Jason
and Mike have him at 2. So Ceedee Lamb, I think when you look at Dallas's offense, he's the piece you like, right? It's not something where you feel incredibly confident everywhere else. In the backfield, okay, we'll see what we're going to get. Dak should be very good. Has provided a number 1 season for Ceedee Lamb. But beyond that combo, you don't feel great about the rest of the offensive pieces, but that's fine. That's good.
You can argue that is a feather in the cap. I mean, if T. Higgins comes out and ends up with 14 or 15 touchdowns, receiving this year, that just unfortunately might come at the expense of Jamar Chase. Ceedee Lamb is alone there, and he was excellent last year. He missed a game. He was still the wide receiver 8, and he was playing without his quarterback and without his shoulder. So, you might feel like it was a down year because he was the wide receiver 1 prior to that, but I think you've got to wash a lot of that injury away, whether it's Dak's injury or Ceedee Lamb's injury.
It was a pretty big point per game differential for
yeah.
Ceedee Lamb, 19.7 down to 14.2, and that was touchdowns. I mean, your touchdowns were in half from the year before. But there are a lot of reasons why, he kind of did the best he could do.
We watched him game after game play really well in the first half until the inevitable hit that,
oh my gosh,
every single game, it was like around halftime, third quarter, he would take some amazing catch and fall to the ground, and that shoulder would be re-aggravated. I don't know why they kept letting him play. I would have shut him down to make sure that your superstar wide receiver is great.
No, they did. He only played 15 games last year.
But there were games that you were just like,
yeah,
why are you out there? But
yes, very much.
But maybe he was embellishing. Who knows?
I
got to look like a warrior. By the way, he broke more tackles than any other wide receiver in football last year. Number 1 in tackle breaking. So always a big play threat. You guys got him at 2. My number 2 is our consensus number 3. It's Justin Jefferson. These 3 guys, we know what you know what you're getting in fantasy football.
I don't think you have a ton of discussion with all these 3 guys. We can nitpick. Obviously, Justin Jefferson's the reason he's 3 versus 2 is because the quarterback situation. You know, I like J.J. McCarthy, but we don't know how he'll throw touchdowns. There's just more question marks there versus we know what Ceedee can do with Dak. All 3 guys are great. All 3 guys are tier 1 wide receivers. These are foundational pieces for fantasy championships, and you expect them to be great. What Jefferson just did with Sam Darnold, a career washout until this last year, proved that, like, okay, I'm not too afraid of McCarthy.
Yeah, he's averaged the most receiving yards per game in the history of the NFL.
That's pretty good.
Has the most receiving yards through the first 5 years of his career, and it's by a lot, by the way. He averages 96.5 yards a game, the next highest in history. Calvin Johnson at 86.1. So pretty wild. He could apparently he could average under 40 yards a game or just above 40 yards a game, and he'd still be number 1 all time if he did that all season long. He would still be above Calvin Johnson. All right, we'll take a break, and we'll get to some more interesting names.
Yeah, that's the easy ones.
Those guys were easy. Back in a minute. All right, well, at number 4 in our early wide receiver rankings, you guys both have him at 4. I have him at 5. It's Puka Nacua. So what's the story with Puka from last year? No more Cooper Kupp going into this year. He only trailed Chase and Nabers in receptions per game last year. What case is there for, you know,
Puka?
Moving him down on this list? Where's your confidence come from keeping him here?
The only reason to move him down to me, I think some people can make an argument that Davante Adams is worse than Cooper Kupp was for him. I do not see it that way. I don't necessarily see that as an upgrade either. He had Cooper Kupp for his career so far. He's taking a great receiver that's gone and putting another great receiver there. I just see it as like it's even. So his injury history this last year and dating back to college combined with Matthew Stafford's, you know, age and injury history, I think those are the reasons if you want to get negative on Puka. But what we have seen is a guy who, when he is on the field, and he played his entire rookie year and, you know, got banged up a little bit this time, has just been world class. You know, on a points per game basis, you're talking about a top 3 wide receiver, and he's going into year 3. He's young. He dominates everywhere on the field. So I don't think there's a lot to criticize personally with Puka at all. Yeah,
his role should be safe. Production when he's on the field is safe. I would say
he is still to this day getting like anti-draft capital.
So he's getting it. Is it a Rams thing? Because Kyron has that problem too.
Well,
I think it's a NFL draft prospect time. He was not supposed to be great. He just really wasn't.
Yeah, so some people were waiting for the shoe to drop. Hopefully that part of them is gone. But you also have, I mean, on this offense, you need to be the alpha. He's probably the alpha. But from a personality standpoint, Cooper Kupp is far less vocal and demanding than maybe Davante Adams would be. Whether that's red zone opportunities, not that, again, I'm not discounting that because nobody was better in the red zone than Cooper Kupp, whether he was loud about it or not. I just think of how Davante Adams views himself, what happened to Garrett Wilson when Davante Adams arrived. Mm-hmm. Those would just be back-of-the-mind things. But he should be coming into this Rams organization with the expectation that Puka is their majority wide receiver. You would think. But, again, that's a variable.
Yeah, I think that if Puka had been drafted in the first round of the NFL draft, everybody would have him at 3. What he's done on the field
at 3 over who?
Well, we've got him at 3, but I think
you have him at 4.
We have him at 4.
Or yeah, I'm sorry, at 4. He is. I've seen him in a lot of drafts and in other ADPs drop several spots. People are concerned with Puka, and I just don't think they should be. I don't think he has ever given a single reason to be concerned with him.
So last year, 16.1 point per game average in the games he was active. High target volume player. The touchdowns weren't there. That would be something to – I mean, 3 touchdowns on the year in those games.
Like you said, 16.1 fantasy points per game on average in those games that he played. Last year, Justin Jefferson was 15.6. So if you think about like how okay, Jamar Chase was 20, but that's not normal. He lapped the field. It's just like he is, he's great. Like Nico Collins last year, 14.7 points per game. He's great. 16.1 for Puka, and it's like, I don't know.
The Stafford is confusing to me. He's a great quarterback. I mean, his first year in Los Angeles, he threw 4,800 yards and 41 touchdowns. But the 3 years since that, the touchdown percentages are very pedestrian. And it's like, how did you have seasons with Puka and Cooper Kupp, and you're just and the touchdowns aren't there?
I feel like it's a Kyron thing.
It could definitely be that. It's just so you guys have the full confidence still in Stafford? Like, can we get more than where did the touchdown? Can we get more? Last year was 20 touchdowns in 16 games.
Well, we know we can get more than that because
the year before that it was 24. I mean, you have 3 years in a row here with the Rams where his average touchdown percent is at 4. So it's under league average. That's very confusing.
Amon-Ra St. Brown is number 5. He is number 4 for me. Jason's got him at 5, Mike at 6. Amon-Ra is he's been such a strange player since coming into the league because he definitely has that dog in him.
Oh, He is the dog.
And one of the things when you look at him and the role he plays in the offense, sometimes it's easy to dismiss players like that as though they are not as relevant in the red zone or in the end zone. The touchdown numbers. I was looking this up. He has the most red zone receptions of anybody in football, even more than Jamar Chase. So when they get down into that area of the field, you don't need to worry or think that they're going to target somebody else. Like, you have bigger-bodied players like Hawkinson, even Jamison Williams, and yet Amon-Ra is kind of a go-to player that finds space in the defense in the red zone, maybe more like how Julian Edelman executed the offense with Tom Brady in New England, where Edelman wasn't prototypical from a touchdown perspective, but he was a go-to guy. So, he is a very, very dynamic player. He was a majority slot percentage player early in his career. It has changed a lot. Last year was his highest percentage out wide, basically 50-50 out wide and in the slot.
Yeah, and for Amon-Ra, losing Ben Johnson, you have to assume they will be running the offense as close to what they had as before. But we've seen teams before where a new guy comes in and they're saying, okay, this is the system, and they mismanage it. So if you're talking downsides of Amon-Ra, that's what it would be.
The nice thing is he's really established himself as like the leader of that offense. Like he is, of at least the passing game. Obviously the offensive line and running game is a big portion of the Lions, but there's a great offense with a ton of continuity everywhere but coaching. He's a guy that's always going to have more than 140 targets. And him and Jared Goff, the way that they play, this is not a guy who's going to catch 66% of his passes. It's just such high floor PPR. And then the fact that he has utilized the last 2 years in the red zone the way he has been.
If you're a person who may be put off by the Puka injury since he had him in college and he had him last year, the non-Puka from a durability perspective is Amon-Ra.
100%.
He plays basically every game, every year. He's been the wide receiver 8, 3, and 3 the last 3 years. So in that respect, very, very, very safe. And the target totals will be in the 140s. So we're still in the safe category. Now a more interesting name. He actually comes in at 6 in our consensus. Mike's got him at 5. Jason at 6. I've got him at 8. We don't know who his quarterback's going to be.
Well, it's
with certainty.
Yeah.
Because,
okay,
you brought him up in the draft, the fact that they could take Shedeur Sanders. But it's Malik Nabers. Nabers comes in at number 6. And, we know the potential. 166 targets on a bad offense, still put up 1,200 yards, still put up 7 touchdowns. He was the entire Giants offense as a rookie. So, I mean, he was first read on 154 of 170 targets, which was, I think he's the third most first read targets in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, he's Jamar Chase. So this is like,
yeah.
To me, if you were to literally trade those two players in the NFL, if you were to trade Malik Nabers and Jamar Chase and swap them teams, Malik Nabers should be the number 1 wide receiver drafted, and Jamar Chase should be, the number 6 wide receiver drafted. This is a quarterback offense problem, not a Malik Nabers problem. I'm going to buy in completely to what he showed on the field last year, and I hate doing the whole he should have a quarterback upgrade thing when you go from bad to mediocre, because we have enough years of doing this where it's like Russell Wilson is not a fix. Now, if Jameis comes in, I mean, you do have that at least, Russell gets injured and they don't draft Shador, then
Jameis is not a fix either for the team, but he has a really, really nice 4-game stretch for Malik Nabers where he'll be targeted 38 times per game.
Yeah, the Giants were tied or trailing on 90% of the routes for Malik Nabers, and I don't think that things are going to change drastically for the New York Giants. I think they'll improve, but this is still a team that's going to be
range
trailing.
Of outcomes for Malik Nabers. How high could he finish if things went right this year? Is it number 1? Because I think it is.
I would say yes. I would say his range of outcomes to me is 1. I
think you can finish number 1 overall.
Yeah. I think he could be number 1, and then as low as 12 would be, we had a bad year.
Yeah, he's a wide receiver 1. He could definitely finish as the wide receiver 1. I don't think he could finish as the wide receiver 1 if Russell Wilson is the quarterback the entire way.
Nico Collins comes in at 7. Right now I have him at 6, Mike at 7, Jason at 8. And, Nico got off to a smoking hot start last year before the injury. Averaged 19 fantasy points per game. What was Chase at, 20?
Yeah.
So they were neck and neck. His 17-game pace last year would have put him over 2,000 receiving yards. The injuries derailed it. The offensive struggles towards the end of the year.
Texans falling apart, which, I mean, you can have the question, was Nico still not great?
Over the last year, he's had the 4th most 20-plus yard receptions. You're getting big plays from Nico. You're getting long touchdowns. There were, 2 weeks in a row when he returned from injury, he had long touchdowns called back on penalty.
Oh, yes.
You remember that? The screen pass? I remember it. He was starting for me.
I had forgotten, but you are correct.
So you got a new offensive coordinator. You're looking for C.J. Stroud.
That was the first play of the game, Matt?
Yeah, first play of the game on his first game back was a screen pass, and he ran it to the house, and it didn't count. And you're like, all you wanted him to do is protect his hamstring, and he does a wind sprint for no points. But, the injury, it sucked. It derailed the season. It hurt the team quite a bit, and then they made a change at offensive coordinator. So do I like C.J. Stroud? Yeah, I still have confidence in him. Offensive line, we got to get that figured out so that you can target Nico, because his average depth of target is in the higher range compared to other wideouts.
Yeah, I mean, that's the issue to me is the offensive line. The Nico we saw after he came back from injury versus the Nico that we saw to start the season on fire, I think the truth is in between those two. I don't believe that, the second half pace, he would have been only on pace for 87 receptions, 1,100 yards, 8 touchdowns. Those are good numbers, but those aren't like elite wide receiver, top 3 numbers by any means. The beginning of the year, like you said, Andy, he was averaging 19 fantasy points per game, and a lot of the big plays were just hitting. So, I mean, I think we've got him about – I would be very excited to have Nico Collins. I look at him bullishly as an alpha wide receiver 1, as definitely a wide receiver 1 in fantasy, but I do shave off the very beginning of the season when it was like, oh, is this the new wide receiver 1 in fantasy football? I don't actually think that that's who Nico is.
I do think he's a top 3, that's his range of outcomes. I think he could get into the top 3. He could score double digits. I mean, he hasn't had a season yet with double-digit touchdowns. Probably would have done it last year without the injury. Was on pace to improve his yardage mark from the year before, where he was 1,300 receiving yards, 1,297, and he was on pace for 1,425. So Yeah, a true alpha.
Target competition will be a bit different this year. They brought Christian Kirk in, who is a good, competent slot player, but like Tank Dell, after that injury, you can't imagine that he's going to be ready to go in week 1.
No Diggs.
So yeah, and Stephon Diggs is gone. So it's who's playing the other outside position for them? Depth chart wise, maybe John Mechie.
I think Nico.
Maybe Justin Watson, who they just brought in.
I mean, I guess his ADP is wide receiver 6, so he's not being discounted at all.
No,
but I think if we had come into last year with no Diggs, Tank Dell question marks, we would have looked at Nico and drafted him appropriately. There was doubts about whether he would be the, not from Mike for the record. Mike was very definitive that there was a tier difference. But let's move on. Number 8, Brian Thomas Jr. We actually all have him ranked very similarly, a little bit ahead of ADP right now. One of the more interesting things when I looked into the season for Brian Thomas Jr. that I wasn't as aware of was how incredibly good he was after the catch. He was the 5th best in the NFL in yards after the catch. When you think of yak players, you think of Debo, right? You think of Rashee Rice because he was near the top of the list. Brian Thomas Jr. is right there. And so he was doing so much with the football wherever he caught it around the field. 1,200 yards, 87 receptions, 10 touchdowns. This is a young, ascending player, the face of the franchise on offense alongside Trevor Lawrence. I don't really think that this season can go poorly for him. I don't.
No, you really don't want to overthink this one. This was a guy who in his rookie season came out and was a top 5 fantasy wide receiver playing for part of it with Mac Jones as a backup quarterback. And you'll hear that's the thing. You'll hear some people say, well, was that why? Mac Jones just hyper-targeted him. He was better with Mac Jones than he was with Trevor Lawrence. Now Trevor Lawrence is coming back, but you got to look deeper and remember the context. This was when he was breaking out in his rookie season, towards the end of the season when Christian Kirk got injured. Evan Ingram missed some games, and it was like, okay, now they were kind of forced to make him the true one.
Who does Ingram play for now?
Exactly. Who does Christian Kirk play for? Exactly.
Yeah, they're gone permanently.
So they have, if you listen to Liam Cohen talk, this is and you just said it. It's the face of the like Trevor Lawrence is obviously the quarterback's always going to be the face of the franchise, but in Jacksonville, it is Brian Thomas is our star now.
He's the Jefferson.
Yes,
for that team, and
so his target market share is going to be incredible. And when you have someone with that kind of physical talent, the breakaway yak ability, that young and ascending, who's going to have that target market share. There's a reason why we're all 3 above ADP on Brian Thomas Jr. because you've got a guy who I don't think he can fail this year, but we certainly have not seen. I don't think we believe we've seen his best football of his career yet.
What's wild is we had the debate on the show about Brian Thomas Jr. Malik Nabers. Who would you take? If you think about which team you think is going to win more games, I would pick Jacksonville.
Fair.
So depending on where you have them,
not by much.
Depending on where you have them tiered, I mean, New York 90% of the time was trailing last year. Russell Wilson is not an answer. Their answer may be a couple years away. It's just an interesting thought experiment.
Yeah, no, and similar to my complaints about Puka, sometimes not being respected as a 1 because of his NFL draft capital. I wonder if the exact same careers had happened for both Nabers and Brian Thomas Jr., but you just flop which one got drafted first in the NFL draft.
Yeah. Yep.
Would we be seeing them
Maybe.
in the opposite? Because it feels
we would be.
Yeah, it feels like so.
Mike, A.J. Brown has had a fantasy finish of number 5 in 2022 with Philly. Then he goes to 7. Then last year, 16. He did miss 4 games.
Yeah, he was actually a higher points per game than 23 somehow.
And you have him the lowest. He comes in at 9 in our consensus. Talk to me about is there A.J. Brown fatigue setting in the fantasy community?
There is. I think that we're on the downside of the career. Still ranked as a wide receiver 1, but I am personally to the point with A.J. Brown of like, oh, there's some of the risers, the guy like Drake London, I'd prefer Drake London. I'd rather take the shot on the upside of Drake London hitting than A.J. Brown. Just the way that the offense is morphed. Saquon Barkley is such a humongous deal to A.J. Brown, where like I know he missed games, but in just terms of what the offense is, I don't think we're going to see another almost 1,500 yard and 11 touchdown season for A.J. Brown when you have Barkley, because it's not what they want to do.
Yeah, no, you can put it this way. Here is a game where last year A.J. Brown had 36 yards, and they won the game with 41 points. There's a game where he had 43 yards, and they won the game. There's a game where he had 36 yards, and they won the game. They don't need him on this offense to go out and put up 90 yards every game to be successful, but he is still an alpha, dominates in one-on-ones, and should still finish the season as a wide receiver one. But I do think the ceiling is capped because of the fact that he's not as necessary as pretty much everyone else we talked about.
Your floor is not nearly as stable. I mean, you have week 9, he scored 4.6 points. Week 13, he's under 10. Week 14 is at just above 6 points. Like, those are not normal things for A.J. Brown, but they are things that in this range of where we want, like, your draft capital, I need greatness. And knowing that A.J. Brown's probably going to have 4 to 5 of those games this year, you just have him a little bit lower.
Well, I don't want to go to break quite yet because I want to put your comments about A.J. Brown in context with number 10 on our list, which is Drake London.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, you said you'd prefer him.
I do.
You know, one of these guys has Jalen Hurts, Super Bowl winning quarterback. The other guy has a brand new face, Michael Penix. And I know the numbers were really good for Penix with Drake London at the very end of the year. You know, he was hyper targeted. It's also 2 games, right? It's a 2-game sample.
I think 3.
Well, I guess I'm looking at the final 2 games. He had the most receiving yards in the league. Drake London did with Michael Penix.
Yeah,
he had the second
Penix
most
had 3
first
starts.
read targets. He had a 42% target per route run. Like, Drake London was it for Michael Penix.
Yes.
You also had 9 touchdowns last year, 1,200 yards for Drake London. He finished at wide receiver 6. He is very much the opposite of Brian Thomas Jr. when it comes to yards after the catch. That's not his game. He is a down the field, 12.7, 13 yards per catch and fall down. Like, his yards after the catch was DeAndre Hopkins level last year, 58th in football. So that's not his game. His game is go up and get it, be a competitive catch player. I guess I wonder, you know, with some of the doubts we have around certain quarterback play, how much does that factor in? And it seems like in the Bijan discussion, which looked really good for, you know, the Michael Penix-Bijan combination, seems like people are in the same camp here. Like, I think the range of outcomes for London is a little bit – there's a lower –
wider variance?
Yeah, wider variance than other players.
Yeah, you can see it go wrong much easier for the Falcons than you can for the Super Bowl champion Eagles, who just have – they're just rolling back another great team. You had a very, very small example at the end of the season of what could go well for Michael Penix. And so, yeah, the range of outcomes when you don't understand, is Michael Penix a great quarterback? Is he a bad quarterback? Is he an average quarterback? We don't know that yet. But that's also exciting. It's exciting to say, well, what if Michael Penix comes out and, you know, at the end of this season, we look back and say, wow, he's like a top 5 quarterback, because that could happen this season. He could level up in his first full season, his second year in the NFL. And if that happens, because Drake London is, you know, he's not dealing with Devontae Smith, he's dealing with Darnell Mooney as the wide receiver 2. You know, Drake London could really have an outstanding season, but also the Falcons could collapse. So it's this just how do you want to play?
Yeah, Penix confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got to be confident.
You need to be confident in the, you know, 50-something% completion percentage.
They say confidence is very important.
58%. And so in his 3 starts, you would the average was okay.
I think he beat
it was still 58.
I think he beat the Giants and then lost back-to-back games to finish the year.
That is correct.
There's just a little doubt there in the
But in those
offense
games,
being successful.
34 points, 24 points against Washington, then 38.
It's just, it's the end of the year, man.
I
don't know.
Oh.
I don't know. I'd love it to be true. Let's make it true. It's better for Bijan. It's better for London. It's better for fantasy players. It's better for Mooney, who's probably a sneaky player this year, to be honest. All right, we'll take a break. We'll cover the last 5 names. Well, Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
Weird discussion. Tyreek, not a good year for Tyreek Hill. Yet he's being drafted at wide receiver 11. That's where we have him. I got him at 12. Jason at 15.
And I very much respect it.
He had he had nearly the most drops in the NFL last year. Maybe because of the stat numbers that Jason was putting up with.
Well, he did have a wrist injury all year too.
Yes. I mean, that's what you have to lean on to make the bull case for Tyreek Hill. Now, I mean, nobody is more explosive. Nobody has a higher percentage of 20-plus yard plays. Nobody is going to, being drafted almost outside the top 12 wide receivers. It's hard to find anybody that you could say, oh, yeah, we should have seen that wide receiver 3 season coming. Like, that's not – all that stuff is possible with Tyreek Hill. But last year was rough. I mean, Jason pointed out on Twitter, he tweeted about this a week ago. He had 906 snaps for 959 yards last year. In 2023, 695 snaps turned into almost 1,800 yards.
That doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
211 more snaps, 840 fewer yards. The offense changed. Jonnu Smith had a role, the short area targets, and then the injury, which seems like it was real.
Oh, yes.
And yet, really seems like it shouldn't have affected the amount of targets he was receiving.
Yeah, I mean, the offense morphed. You didn't see as much downfield anything, and downfield Tyreek Hill is a pretty important, superpower of his, and they just weren't pushing the ball down there. So there's worries. You can excuse some of this. Oh, it's the wrist. I don't give a lot of credence to that. He played 17 games. Okay, maybe he was a little banged up, but a lot of NFL players are banged up while they're playing games. I give much more credence to the fact that, well, you lost Tyreek Hill for a portion of that, and so, the total passing volume would shrink a little bit. Jonnu Smith coming, to get more involved. But, when you look at a player who's going to be overdrafted, Tyreek Hill still has the promise of being the number 1 wide receiver.
You're just 2 years removed from it.
Yeah. It's like, oh, if he had a down year this last year and that's all it was because Tyreek got injured, and we just go back to what it was the year before last, I mean, you're getting a steal when you're drafting him as the wide receiver 11. You get him in the 2nd round. That's fine. But I just want to make sure when you're doing that you realize he played the whole freaking season last year and sucked. He scored 10 fantasy points a game. Like he wasn't good.
Actively harmful for your team
in the entire season, and that's the most recent thing we have to go off of.
When he had the slow start, a lot of people, myself included, acquired him cheaply because there wasn't you're like waiting for Tua to come back and fix it all, because that was the case, right?
Yes, it was.
The argument was Tyreek's not having the career year again, but it's because Tua's not there, so I'm going to get him before Tua comes back, count on Tua playing. That's what I did. It never came. It never arrived. It was like, and then he was just in my lineup going, this week then, this week then. So it didn't happen.
No. Let me ask you guys a question. Who had more yards, more points per game last year?
I wonder.
Tyreek Hill or Adam Thielen?
Per game?
Per game.
That's Thielen then.
It sure is.
Yeah.
And
how many games was Thielen?
Thielen played 10 games.
I don't remember.
He played 10 games. My point is, on a points per game, like his season total looks not as bad as it was because he played the whole season. He played 17 games, and so he accumulated stats. But on a per game basis, he wasn't. He was the wide receiver 35 in points per game, basically tied with Josh Downs. And Josh Downs had a very successful season. But
this will tell the whole truth, Jason. We have our consistency metric. It's a D for dreadful.
Don't like
29.4% of the time above 10.5 points.
Yeah, it was bad. So could he bounce back? Sure. Am I going to bet? I mean, it's very, very, very rare that towards the end of someone's career.
He will be playing at the age of 31.
Exactly. At the age of post-30 that you have a down year, and that's considered a down year because you come back.
Right. No, it's not common.
So I'm out.
Number 12, JSN, Jaxon Smith-Njigba. Jason at 10, Mike at 16. I'm at 14 in between. And what's the holistic thoughts on JSN? Because you've got a new quarterback.
Yep.
Got a new head coach.
Yep.
Got a new pecking order.
New offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Because Ryan Grubb fired. DK Metcalf is gone.
Tyler Lockett is gone.
Cooper Kupp, welcome to town. A lot of talk about. I mean, Mike is confident in Kenneth Walker. Maybe the running game gets going, but JSN was just outstanding last year. He
was the wide receiver 10 in fantasy points last season, and he was so much better over the second half. You know, JSN was a little disappointing his rookie year, but he's disappointing.
A lot of it.
Sure, he was a lot of it disappointing his rookie year, only because
whole lot of it.
He was supposed. It was very Marvin Harrison Jr. I talk about it all the time. Marvin Harrison Jr. did not have a bad rookie season. Marvin Harrison Jr. had a terrible compared to expectations rookie season, but he was good. JSN had the same thing, and the reason is because I don't
agree with that.
You don't agree with which part of that?
630 yards and 4 touchdowns. I think that's what he's feeling.
Yeah, I'm just feeling like I watched the games, and this was not an important
Sure. I mean, you're saying in his rookie year.
Correct.
Yeah. His rookie year was a massive disappointment. But he still was, 600 yards in his rookie season. It's not like, oh, this career is done. Last year, he became the guy, and he became the guy with DK Metcalf on the team, and he became the guy with an older Tyler Lockett on the team, finished as the wide receiver 10. It all got better as the season went on, and then they got rid of these guys. So going into year 3.
Got rid of Geno Smith.
Yes, they got rid of Geno Smith, and obviously
JSN should be good.
Yeah, I mean, I believe JSN will have a target volume that is 150 plus targets, pretty much guaranteed.
I hope they use him properly.
So now
there was a lot of excitement around Grubb last year, and it didn't work out for the team. He was a first down machine. He had the 6th most first down receptions in the NFL. He just found a way to get open, and they found him.
I think the question is, how talented do you think he is? Like, the wide receiver. Put him anywhere else. What do you think of him?
I don't think that JSN is – I mean, when you look at just NFL talent at wide receiver, I don't think he's a top 10 guy. So
I think that's the important distinction.
I do not think so. No. I think he is more – I mean, I don't want to insult the guy, but like Deontay Johnson had some great fantasy years.
Mm-hmm.
He's closer to that than Jamar Chase for me.
Okay, that's fine. My biggest concern the shifting of the offense, which projects to be run heavier than it was this past year, and the fact that is Sam Darnold, is what we saw last year more of a product of the Minnesota Vikings and the Kevin O'Connell offense, or did Sam Darnold really figure something out?
It's probably the Kevin O'Connell.
And I lean on the side of it being Kevin O'Connell, up with giving Darnold credit for getting better than he was before that year. But if you go back and watch Geno, who, again, I think Geno's a very good quarterback, watch a lot of what happens with that offensive line last year for Geno. That pocket is crumbling around him, and Geno is managing to dance, not freak out. And he's finding the guys. Jason,
that's
can get
Darnold's
open.
strength. That's Darnold loves.
Which goes into my larger point is we saw the end of the Minnesota Vikings season last year when everything just crumbled into pieces. It was Sam Darnold got freaked out and didn't know what to do. Where Geno, I think, was making magical things happen last year under the circumstances.
I think that's the best anti-JSN argument possible, is the offensive line going to ruin Sam Darnold? Because there are certain quarterbacks, like I would throw Jared Goff.
See ghosts?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say
go be seeing ghosts and ghouls.
There are
goblins.
Are certain quarterbacks where when things go right, they're really, really, really good. Jared Goff is an awesome quarterback behind an awesome offensive line. When things go wrong and pressure's there, he's not making plays on his own and doing those things. And so, yeah, I think that's a very valid anti-JSN's fantasy value take to have.
It's an anti-JSN like ceiling
dominator.
Case. Yeah, like 16. That's not a bad ranking.
I'm gonna commit. I'm gonna go rewatch JSN's second half of the year and see how much was him, how much was Geno, because my view of him as a talent, I think, is just very high. I think
sure.
He coming into the draft. Where obviously he was the first NFL wide receiver taken in his draft class. So if he is that talented, I think he'll overcome.
13 is T. Higgins, so makes our top 15. He was outstanding.
Guys, this is the stupidest thing.
What is?
We cannot all be in on T. Higgins.
And
it is going to go so terrible.
Well, look, I think we're all.
This is the Boo Ghost
from
Mario. We're all looking.
We're all very comfortable with T. Higgins because his situation is very comfortable. And he's played enough football. I mean, he averages a touchdown every 7.7 receptions.
It's a beast.
That is like fifth best in football. You know you're going to get scores with T. Higgins. You know how comfortable Joe Burrow is with it. He's not going to be the number one target. Jamar Chase will be better than him.
But it's not drastic.
Huge. No. Chase helps Higgins so much.
Well, so
they're so much better when they're together.
Well, are you saying that because Chase was averaging 20 points per game as the number one wide receiver, while on a points per game basis, T. Higgins was 15.5 as the fourth best wide receiver last year in fantasy on a points per game basis? Obviously missed games. But yeah, when they're both out there together, they're both just freaking awesome.
And to be clear, I mean, this is not the first rodeo for T. Higgins. He's played, well, when he's been healthy. He's played with Joe Burrow for many years. This was by far his best points per game performance.
Yes.
He has traditionally been 13, 11.5. So, maybe the double-digit touchdowns aren't coming back. I mean, that was his touchdown high by 3 in his career. So that would be the one thing you look at and say, okay.
And in 12 games.
In 12 games. So maybe you don't get double-digit touchdowns. That's certainly possible, but very safe. If he slips in drafts, I would put him on every one of my teams so that I can feel pain like Mike did.
Yeah, I'm really sad to see that now.
Join me in the pit.
I'm really sad to see right now that he's like at the back of the second round. I don't think people are as low on him as I hoped they would be. I'm very bullish, very confident, and I'm not scared at all about the games missed. I'm really not. Maybe it's because I haven't lived that experience with you, Mike.
You should be a little scared of that.
Yeah.
But he doesn't play 17.
I mean,
he'd rather be dead than play 17.
It's a minor concern I think you should have.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean,
you are going to miss games.
I don't know.
That's a guarantee.
You seen that check bonus on his contract?
It don't matter. Guess what? Let me tell you this. What was he playing for last year? Oh, yeah. Free agent contract. That's a lot of checks. Missed 4 games.
Yeah.
Missed 5 games.
He's quite good at starting games, which I think that
that is the hard.
I think if he is on the field for snap one, I think the check clears.
Good point. Oh, man, he does that a lot.
That will be a risk. Yeah,
what could go wrong for T. Higgins this year?
He doesn't mind limping around in the first quarter. Lad McConkey comes in at 14. Apparently, I'm by far the lowest. It's not really.
It's embarrassing.
Not on purpose.
You just hate him. I remember in the college scouting time last year, Andy was like, "This Lad guy sucks."
That's what he called him, Last McConkey.
Yeah, Last McConkey. He was always anti-Lad McConkey.
Who chuckled at that? Because that one was not good. Is that you, Matt? No.
Yeah, it was
Matt. I would, as I was telling the joke, I'm like, this is not good, but I'm gonna finish.
To be clear, I was a Lad guy.
Yeah,
and then you're like, man, I want to be like Andy. And then you got on the Lad bandwagon. And he's outstanding. He's an incredible player. His catch percentage is outrageous. He was like the 10th best in football. He has He broke a ton of tackles. So you wouldn't think that that's who he is. Yeah, he is. He's the 4th highest tackle breaking wide receiver in football. He's just a complete wide receiver. He is literally the picture you should draw for quarterback's best friend. He is open, sure-handed, will catch the football on an important third down. And I think the question for everybody in fantasy is just, what is he going to be for the team moving forward? Is there more upside to Ladd McConkey? And I don't think there's a lot more. I think, 82 for 1155 and 7, you can go up from there. You can catch 100 passes. Ladd can catch 100 passes.
Yeah, he could be 100 for 1250 and 8.
Yeah. So I mean, there is room. There's not number 1 overall. That's not an outcome that's realistic for Ladd McConkey. But this is this super solid player that he's being drafted at wide receiver 13. He's being respected in drafts.
Yeah, he is. He seems to me like a pretty much guaranteed top 15 wide receiver. He's playing that role that it's not the same system when Keenan Allen was there, but that Justin Herbert to super reliable wide receiver role. Like I've got to move the chains. I'm going to go to my guy who I know exactly on this step. He's going to be in this spot, and he's going to catch the ball when I put a catchable ball on him. So Ladd is very, very safe, but yeah, the upside case is difficult. I think I have hope from, and I know it was like the Brandon Staley era, so shave a few 4th down, go for it's off. But what we saw per game with Keenan was like surprisingly high, and we also saw in the second half of last year the new system with Harbaugh. We saw Justin Herbert kind of allowed to take more control and be the leader of this offense versus just like establish it in the run game. So I don't think we've seen Ladd's best, but you're right, he doesn't have like wide receiver 1 upside.
After the bye week, which that's not that is a common marker when we look at rookie wide receivers. The bye week, guys can take off. Theirs was early. Talking about the Chargers, they had a week 5 bye, but after the bye week, the pace would have been 95 catches for almost 1,400 yards.
Oh, my little lad!
Like I think that there is a lot of room.
Who else were they throwing the football to?
I mean,
that's the big question for the offense. You're going to have.
They were throwing it at Huge.
You're going to have a better running back situation potentially.
I'll go lateral.
You're definitely going to have more wide receivers in the picture this year. I think
you've added Mike Williams,
and you got the draft. Which they've worked a lot of guys out. That would be he could be somebody that I think moves a lot based on draft selections.
He could, but
if they draft a prominent, if they draft a day 2 wide receiver or above, day 1 or day 2 wide receiver, Ladd will fall
or
a little bit.
Tier 1 tight end even potentially.
Sure, yeah. He'll fall a little bit, but I think that'll only help.
Here's a wild, because we got to close things out. We got to get to 15. You can still talk about Ladd, but Ladd and Terry McLaurin are the final 2 names. Terry McLaurin comes in at 15. Apparently, I barely kept him there by ranking him the highest among the 3 of us. They almost have the same numbers. I mean, they both caught 82 passes, Ladd and McLaurin. They both had 110 and 114 targets. They were very similar in the total yardage. Ladd was a little bit above. Double the touchdowns for McLaurin, but that is part of his arsenal, right? His average depth of target is 4 yards better. So you're kind of, despite ending up with the same numbers on a lot of areas, there are different types of players in the offense. 13 touchdowns is a lot. I feel like there hasn't been a single moment this offseason where we're like giving Terry McLaurin credit for 13 touchdowns.
Well, we're giving him credit.
It only works against him. I feel like if we went out here and Terry McLaurin had 9 or 10 touchdowns, we'd be like, okay, he can come back and do that. But because it's 13, it's like, oh, let's just throw that season away where you were the, one of the best players in the game, which we've always known by film.
It's not throwing it away. It's just having 5 seasons before that where your high in touchdowns was 7.
What's his average touchdowns per year with Jaden Daniels?
That would
13.
be it's a clean 13.0. It's not even
really?
a decimal.
Yeah, I don't think 13 is going to be there, but I think double digits is.
And yeah, I wouldn't put him at double digits.
You also
certainly
added
not impossible.
You also added Deebo Samuel to the roster, so
Sure.
you know they were desperately looking for a wide receiver too.
They're talking about pass catching running backs. Like we need to. Was that them?
Yeah, that was them, which I felt was a little disrespectful
to Mr. Eckler.
Yes.
Yeah. So they're like that position will be upgraded and used a bit more. Is he going to catch half of
the ADP
Daniels?
Reflects. I mean, he's not high. He's a third-round pick.
I think I like it. Wide receiver 16. I'll take that.
And he was the wide receiver 5 last year, so he comes in at 15 for us. 16's Evans, 17 DJ Moore, 18 Devontae Adams, tied with number 18 Marvin Harrison Jr. and Garrett Wilson at 20 to round that out. Just giving you some more names.
Oh, real quick, my last point that I wanted to make on Lad McConkey was.
I'm sorry, your time has expired.
I'm taking. I do not yield.
Okay, I'm not listening. Go on.
Wide receivers who break out as a rookie, and so in their first year they finish as a top 24 guy. Statistically speaking, by ADP, those are like the best bets in fantasy football, and we have 3 of them. But the other 2 guys, their ADPs are absolutely juiced because it's Malik Nabers and Brian Thomas. Like. Lad's the only one sitting right there in that sweet spot of I think that he can outproduce
a top 24. Is that what you said?
Yeah, if you finish as a top 24 as a rookie.
Garrett Wilson says, watch this.
Watch
this.
Garrett Wilson is one of the names that screwed it up.
Of the other names that we didn't mention real briefly, is there somebody that you can think you could finish in the top 15? For me, I'll throw Marvin Harrison out there. I think that's definitely within the realm of possibilities. Marvin Harrison has double-digit touchdown potential every year.
It should happen.
He should be top 15. I would throw Rashee Rice out there. I don't want to forget. I know there's suspensions. There's Xavier Worthy.
There was a slight update.
But you're keeping it a secret.
No. There was a slight update. I can't remember the fella's name. He does all the law stuff on Twitter. I'm sorry, man. I can't remember your name right now. But he was talking about the Rice situation and how where the case is being pushed, and in his opinion, like
Davenport?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Davenport was saying it's not impossible that this thing gets pushed all the way again through this season and no suspension actually takes place.
If I were to
this year.
If I were to run into, let's say, a legal situation, how does one push it way off into the future? How might one?
Well,
because I could.
I think you start by being famous and rich.
Wealthy athlete.
Okay.
That's a great place to start.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna have to play some sports.
Yeah.
Because I think my strategy would be do some bad stuff and then push it until after I die.
Ooh, nice.
Keep pushing the date.
Loophole.
Yeah, get the court date.
Just do that and just keep swiping credit cards.
Oh, so he's just gonna be a master crime machine.
Well, it's not a crime machine. He's just didn't have time to pay it back.
It's just delaying.
I guess I see you swiping that credit card of I can do it again.
Yeah, I don't know. That's interesting.
Again.
Mike, did you have a name you wanted to throw out real quick?
Oh,
maybe you already did and I didn't listen because I had been tuning you out.
It would be Chris Godwin.
You know what? Chris Godwin, wild numbers last year in his games played.
They were
probably going to be the most stupidly ignored player this year.
I'm personally waiting on the injury updates. Obviously, he got a bag of money.
That's my update.
Yeah.
That's good enough for me.
I don't know if he's ready for camp, ready for week 1. So as soon as that happens, if he goes to training camp and he's just healthy there, then he should be. He was the wide receiver 2 on a points per game basis last year. He wasn't good. He was great. So
Jason,
he was. I was just gonna say he was better than Brian Thomas yards after the catch. Godwin was.
He was on an unbelievable tear. And before we close, Jason, I have to. Matt has called something out here.
Oh no.
Okay.
Because
let's find out.
You were going on your tangent and swipe that card. You've been doing a lot of credit card swiping lately, old man.
You're the one that said swipe. I repeated you, old man.
You know what's funny?
You fell into my trap. Did I say swipe?
Tap that card.
I didn't think you were talking about the language at all. I thought you were talking about the one person in the studio who actually stole from the company via credit card.
Oh, man. Okay.
What a great story.
No. Here's the thing. This story.
Can we get a digital zoom?
This story is way too good for the end of an episode. So stay tuned. We're putting this in the show docs. Our next episode, he's batting leadoff, and you're getting wrecked. You're getting
All right.
wrecked.
All right, we'll have a story for you. You're going to have to wait till next week, though.
And you're showing up. You're not fired till after that episode. You understand me?
Sure.
Oh, man. Next episode. Don't miss it.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.